Hi guys, this is John, and welcome to another episode of the Meatgistics podcast. Now, as you can see, today is another bit of an odd episode. It is going to be just me. No Austin, no guest, just your favorite Meatgistics moderator, John. So we're going to do something that we've been talking about doing for a while. We are going to clean the podcast at waltonsinc.com mailbag. So before we get to that, we've got the beer of the day. And what I've got is a hibiscus lemon saison from Crane Brewing. Now, here's an important note. I love Crane Brewing, but it is well known that I hate this beer, and I'm only drinking it because it was the only thing in the fridge. And I'm not going to sit here and do one of these podcasts without something to drink in my hand. So it is a hibiscus, which is a flower, lemon saison. I love sour beers. I do not love this beer. That's not a pleasing taste. It also has a okay 5% alcohol by volume. It says it's a Belgian style ale with hibiscus and lemon. That just doesn't even sound like a good combination. I have no idea what they were thinking here. They've taken some big shots on a couple of beers, and this one is a clear miss, but it's better than drinking water. So we continue. All right, so on to the mailbag. This is what you guys, or some of what you guys have emailed us in at podcast@waltonsinc.com. It's where you can send us emails to get in touch with us about future topics that you want us to discuss, questions that you have, or if you have a guest or want to be a guest on the podcast. We're going to change the format just a little bit here. For the foreseeable future, it's going to be just me or just me and a guest. We will eventually, after busy season, get back to me and Austin and a guest. But for right now, we're just really trying to protect his time. We're also going to try to do it where we have 2 podcasts a month that are guest related, then 1 that will be meat hack related. So we did a couple of weeks ago, we did the 5 best meat hacks for making snack sticks. Next one we do might be 5 best meat hacks for making jerky or, brisket, something like that. And then 1 a month will be cleaning the mailbag. Now, that is obviously all based on how much you guys send us. There's still more in there that we're not going to get to today. So I'm sorry if you sent us something and we have not, or we're not going to cover it today. But this is going to be a quick one. Everything is crazy busy here at Walton's as we get ready for busy season. We are doing our absolute level best to keep all the balls in the air, but there's quite a few of them to track right now. All right, so no more excuses. On to the mailbag. These first 2 actually are both from well-known Meatgistics user Tech77. And the first one is an article. I will post a link to that in the Meatgistics post for this podcast that says local deer processors aren't going to be doing meat this year. Here's an article from Hutch News on some local meat plants not being able to process deer this year. Now, this is mainly because of COVID-19. Your smaller mom and pop butcher shops, they're already at full capacity because ranchers are bringing their meat to them to process instead of selling them to feedlots for pennies on the dollar. Some places are going to be willing to do the butchering or do the processing, but not the butchering, meaning you're going to have to bring them your meat that's already off the bone and frozen. At that point, just do it yourself. I mean, I can guarantee you can get a small number 7 or 7-pound sausage stuffer and a cheap little number 8 or number 5 meat grinder for about what you'd pay them to do your deer. I mean, it's not going to be the best pieces of equipment ever, but they'll work. We would recommend you go with number 12 or number 22 meat grinder, but we all know how hard those have been to find recently, unless you're willing to spend the $600 that it is for one of those Pro Cuts. There is really good news on that. I'll say by the time this podcast comes out, we should be about a week away from having the Walton's meat grinders, all sizes. So we'll have 2 number 8s, one's a kitchen and ones like the number 8 Pro from Weston, a number 12, a number 22, and a number 32. So those are coming. Hopefully they will be here in time for our Thanks Black Monday sale. If they do that, we will do some awesome sales on them. I was also talking to Brett Walton earlier today, and he was mentioning that he talked to some meat processors in Western Kansas, and they are doing the exact same thing. There is not going to be the capacity at your local butcher shop or little processing plant in your town to do a bunch of deer processing. So I'm imagining they're going to turn a bunch of people away. Now, one of the things about this is that is going to let more people process for the first time. Hopefully they find out that they like it and get into it and can make their own quality meat products at home. We've been working, we've had Kurt Ratzliff from Backcountry Hunters and Anglers on here a few times, and he had a deprivation tag for a deer that the Kansas Wildlife was going to let him take so we could show videos of processing it. COVID has messed that up all. It's probably not going to happen this year. We will continue to try, and if that becomes available, we will absolutely get it done. It is extremely high on the list of things that we will absolutely get done by next deer season. Definitely should have had that done. It's just, it has been an absolutely crazy year aside from COVID. If you remove COVID from this, we were going to have a busy year. And with all the challenges that gave us, we just weren't able to get to it. But 100%, we absolutely will have one next year. And also somewhat related note, quick shout out to Red Raider Meats. They are Texas Tech's meat processing department. And apparently they really did a great job stepping up to fill a void for that area, expanding the number of meat products that they were selling, and even did a bunch of things with like delivery to door or curbside. So nice to see college kids going that extra effort, learning what it takes to actually create successful business. This one's also from Tex, and it's one that I'm not even really sure how I feel about. It says, we will see how this plays out, but for the first time in 24 years, the U.S. is going to import beef from the UK. Now, we stopped importing beef from the United Kingdom back in the 90s. It was part of the whole mad cow disease scare. But that obviously is changing. We are going to start bringing it back in, which is really confusing on the timing, considering processors were, paying an all-time low price for their beef. But it's going to be coming from Wales and Northern Ireland. Now, as an end consumer, this might be good news for us. Might see some prices drop from competition. It may also be good news for cat or ranchers and producers here. If our product is clearly superior to this, and let's be perfectly honest, Americans have a really specific desire for a taste. We like corn-fed. All the people always talk about grass-fed this, grass-fed that. If you put them side by side, almost everyone I know at least is going to prefer the taste of the corn-fed. It just got a better fat to it, and fat is a huge part of what we like about meat, specifically beef. So if these are more wild range, or at least aren't fed the standard American diet over there, come over here, we might not like it. May reinforce that, just like most other things, that's something we do better than everyone else. All right, so Ma Lynn Salvador sent a really interesting question and got me thinking. Wants to know about high-fat sausages suitable for keto diets and how to prevent the fat, which would ideally be in the 50% range for a keto sausage, from rendering out of the meat during the cooking process. So we're going to attack this in two different ways. If we're talking about a fresh sausage, which I'm assuming we are, because if you have a 50% fat sausage and you're planning on hanging it or even laying it in a rack and smoking it, but specifically if you're planning on hanging it, you're going to face some unique challenges, but we'll get back to that one. So for fresh sausage, You're going to want to absolutely add carrot fiber to try to hold on to as much of that fat as possible. I considered saying to add superbind, and you may want to do that. See, superbind is a combination of carrot fiber, which holds up to 26 times its weight in water, and potato starch. Potato starch starts to form a gel right around 130 to 140 degrees, which is really when fat starts to render. So you would get that fat to start to render, and that gel from the potato starch would just soak it right up. Now, when you're cooking a bratwurst on the grill or in a pan, toaster oven, anything like that, it's only spending a couple of minutes from 140 to 160 when it's ready to eat. That's a quick transition. When you're smoking it, that's multiple hours. So you're in a lot tougher position there. So one thing I would say with the fresh sausage is I would actually add a little bit less and possibly no water to a 50% fat sausage and still add the carrot fiber. Reason being is as soon as you're adding water, carrot fiber is getting used. You want it in there ready to accept that moisture from the rendered fat. For cured sausage, again, we love Sure-Gel. It's absolutely great binder. But when that fat starts rendering around 130 degrees, I don't know of a way to make it not render out. I don't think you are going to do it. So what I would actually recommend is do something different. Lean into it. Instead of trying to make sure that it all stays bound up in the meat, I would go the opposite way. I would do what we did with some ring bologna here. It was probably a year and a half ago now. We did our ring bologna. We separated the fat from the lean, and we went ahead and ran the fat just one time through a big chunker plate. So it was nice big chunks of fat. We mixed up all of our lean. We started to get really good protein extraction, and then we just basically sprinkled the fat in and mixed it for another couple of minutes. So we were looking to get pockets of fat inside the sausage and basically have it encapsulate by that. And then when it renders, it's going to melt, but it's going to stay in that area and reform. Here's the biggest problem. Obviously, if there's any on the side or where it's not encapsulated by the protein, it's going to leak out. So use a synthetic casing. Use something that the fat can't leak out of. We used the ring bologna casings, and it worked absolutely wonderfully. There was great fat pockets in there. It was absolutely awesome to eat. And that's the only way I can see this working out. Now, it's still going to be a mess. When you go to peel that casing off, it should peel off real easy because, it's been basically cooked in fat in between the protein and the casing. But it definitely will work. It may not give you the most pleasing appearance as an end product, but should be fine. So fresh, I would go carrot fiber and little to no extra added water. And then if you're doing a cured sausage, like I said, I'd lean into it. I'd use a casing that it's not going to leak out of, like the ring bologna casing. Or if you want to do a big casing, the red bologna casings, I think they're like 4 inches in diameter. So that would be more of like a summer sausage or a deli meat. But that was Ma Lynn Salvador. And then John Kaminsky says, I've been collecting a lot of sausage and dried meat recipes. The bulk of them say add antioxidant at 0.24%. What is it? Also, starter culture, does the culture just get painted on a finished product? So break this down into antioxidants and the starter culture. An antioxidant performs a few important functions in meat processing. First, the oxidation. It's a chemical reaction in which something gains oxygen or loses an electron. So basically, it starts to break down. That's what it is. This is what's happening when things rust. So think about what, that rusty chain in your yard looks like. Now think about that in your meat. It's not the exact same thing, but it is the same process. The most obvious benefit, or visual benefit at least, to adding an antioxidant is that the fat lipids, and especially with pork fat, which we love to use, is nice and white. It's not going to start turning that brown. So visually, it's an important thing. But it also does help fight off any odd or foul smells or tastes. Now, BHA, which is butylated hydroxynosol, and BHT, which is butylated hydroxytoluene, those are the two most popular and powerful antioxidants commonly found in meat. Now, there's plenty of controversy surrounding both of those antioxidants, but the USDA lists them as safe to eat. So do with that information whatever you will. At USDA, I'll trust them. That's good enough for me. I know that's not true for everybody. Now, for the second part, lactic acids aren't painted on to the outside of the sausage. I think what you're referring to is some processors will add mold to the outside, and it is a good mold specifically designed to outcompete any bad mold. Okay. So basically, they're going to prevent the bad mold from growing by growing a lot of good mold or harmless mold. It's usually a white mold. In fact, it's so synonymous with dry cured sausage or fermented sausage, however you want to say it, that they make casings that specifically mimic that look. And I know this because we sell them. So no, the lactic acid is actually used in the fermentation process, and that is mixed into the sausage. We've just released a couple of videos on dry curing over at Meatgistics University. So you can go to our YouTube channel, or you're probably maybe already on our YouTube channel, or go over to www.meatgistics.com and you can check that out. A chef who's a big Meatgistics user is asking about how about a mobile podcast to take us on a tour of your facilities and your retail store. I'd really like to see your total setup. So first of all, anytime any Meatgistics user is in the neighborhood, please let Austin or I know ahead of time. We will do our absolute best to break away from whatever we're doing and give you a quick tour of the studio, the rest of the business. We are super proud of all the setup here from shipping. Hopefully you guys got a kick out of getting to hear from Taylor, our shipping manager, who part of a department that does a ton of work here. Anyone who places an order, you might not be coming through everybody in the building, but you're going through shipping for sure. So they're touching more orders than anybody else. So please, let us know. Right now in busy season, we might not be able to break away. But if we are able to, we would be more than happy to give you a tour of the entire facility. As far as a mobile podcast, it's definitely something we've talked about. We are planning on doing one up at Pheasant Fest this year, which is in South Dakota. Thank goodness, because South Dakota has remained open, so we actually can have it. We were going to do one at the National Wild Turkey Federation Turkey Fest, which is a week or so later, and that's in Nashville, but they're doing that entire thing as virtual now, so we won't be doing it. But yeah, in the next couple of years, we'll definitely have a few episodes that will be, quote unquote, mobile. Another one from Tech77, and I'll include the link, and I want this to be fake. I really do. I want to pretend this doesn't exist, but it is candy corn Thanksgiving dinner. I typed out some thoughts here, and the number one was, this might be the evilest thing that 2020 has given us yet. The 6 flavors are green bean, roasted turkey, cranberry sauce, ginger glazed carrots, sweet potato pie, and stuffing. And that is just absolutely disgusting. There was a joke a bunch of years ago about how Americans like everything so crazy that we would make a hamburger with donuts as the bun. Well, we ended up coming out with that. So generally, the more crazy and American something is, the more I enjoy it. That is a bridge too far for me. I have no interest in trying that. I think they should all be found and disposed of immediately. And then Kenneth sent this a long time ago, and we're finally having time to answer it. And I think he knows the answer to his question because it's pretty much in his question. So Kenneth says, hi, first time to make imitation bacon recipe, and it turned out really brittle after smoking it. I used 50% venison and 50% pork butt, which is perfectly fine. That's a good mix. I let it cure for 24 hours before smoking it. Again, correct way to do it. I smoked it at 150 for 2 hours, 180 for 4 hours, until the internal temperature was 160. So that's fine too. Obviously, we prefer you start at 120, but a lot of smokers don't do that. A lot of ovens won't go that low. So if 150 is as low as you can go, I mean, that's as low as you can go. We have done some stuff in the past where we propped the door to this oven right here, and it stabilized that top rack, stabilized at basically exactly 120 degrees. We then upped the temperature and we got it to stabilize pretty close to 140 degrees. So it can be done. It's just how much effort do you want to put into it? And not to put too fine a point of it, but I don't pay the electric bill around here. So if I prop a door in an oven, I'm okay with it. At home, that might not be what you want to do. But here comes the key point to all of this. It says, the only step I missed was adding water to the meat. The taste is terrific. Is there any other suggestions you might have so it doesn't turn out so brittle? It practically falls apart into bits when I slice it. So yeah, water is a really key ingredient in sausage, which, I mean, that is a type of sausage. It's not stuffed into a casing, but it is ground and formed. So it kind of is sausage. If you don't add the correct amount of sausage, or water to your sausage, this is exactly what you're going to run into. You're going to have dry products. I'm surprised the taste was terrific. Honestly, I would have imagined it would have been a little bit bland if it doesn't have the right moisture. Hopefully, you just had a really good amount of fat on your pork butt there to get you high enough where it had some moisture remaining in it. But yeah. Absolutely, you need to add water to any type of sausage you're making. I even add it, depending on what the meat looks like, to bratwursts when I'm making it. It makes mixing in the seasoning easier, and it makes just making sure the dispersal of the seasoning throughout all the meat is easier. Because when you're doing a bratwurst, you don't have really a ton of time to keep mixing and working that meat to get the seasoning evenly dispersed. Protein extraction at least starts to happen fairly rapidly. And you want to avoid that with a bratwurst or you'll end up with a weird texture. I've heard, people wondering why their bratwurst looks more like a hot dog. It's just because you overmixed it. Classically, a bratwurst has, a chunky appearance, a chunky bite. You should be able to bite into it and you see a bunch of particle size. You don't want to see it smooth like a snack stick or a hot dog. Another important note on water is that it is, I called it an ingredient on purpose. If you have a lot of sulfur in your water, if you have a lot of hard minerals in your water, use bottled water, use deionized water, or just put it in a big container and leave it out in your fridge overnight. Now, that might not work for sulfur, but if you have hard minerals or chemicals in there, most of that will gas out in a simple overnight storage. But if you do have problems with your water, bottled water, deionized water at the store is super cheap and it is a good option. One more thing on imitation bacon. We're recently started adding bacon taste booster to our imitation bacon. And it tastes absolutely great. I mean, bacon taste booster, the more and more I'm using it, the more I just absolutely love it. We added it to a batch of snack sticks recently that were the sweet maple bacon. Those were excellent, although the texture on those, through the two or three batches of it, I was never able to really nail the texture. I think that was from the fact that I added actual bacon. I cooked some bacon, chopped it up, ground it up, and put it in there. And I think just the fat content of that pushed me above that 70% range. And it was just a little bit looser and more kind of floppy than I generally like out of my snack sticks. I usually like a pretty firm snack stick. And then by the time this comes out, we should know what one of our other experiments is going to turn out. We took some pork, we took Bacon Taste Booster, we took some Sure Gel, and just the Blue Ribbon Maple Bacon Cure. Went ahead and ground it, mixed it all up. It's sitting in the fridge right now in a 2-pound or whatever pound loaf pan those things are, and we're going to smoke it tomorrow. So we'll see if Blue Ribbon Maple Bacon Cure works as well for a quote unquote imitation bacon as the imitation bacon. I don't even know what to call that. I mean, it's not bacon, but it's not imitation bacon. It's ground informed bacon, something like that. But I don't know. Bacon's usually a belly, and that is just a pork butt. So short one today, guys. If you have any topics, any questions you want us to answer, like I said, we're going to try and start doing this monthly. 1 out of the 4 podcasts a month will just be us talking back to you guys. So send us your ideas, your questions. And again, if you have ideas on who would be a good guest, or if you want to be on the podcast, let us know at podcast@waltonsinc.com. And by the time this comes out, start getting ready for our Thanks Black Monday video. That is a 3-parter where the week before Thanksgiving, we'll do the pre-Thanksgiving sale. The Monday of the week of Thanksgiving, we will start another big sale. That will go all the way to the following Monday. On Black Friday of that, obviously that same week, we're going to start another round of that sale, and those will go from Black Friday to Cyber Monday. And then on Cyber Monday, we're going to have a 3rd round of the sales, plus Austin and I will be up here for our 5-hour marathon live stream where we're going to take suggestions from you guys on what you want on sale. We'll do some flash sales, do a couple huge coupon codes, and generally just have a blast. That is absolutely one of my funnest or favorite days of the year here. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Please, if you're listening on Apple, iTunes, Google Play, anything like that, leave us a review. That really does help, apparently. And don't forget to hit the like button if you're on YouTube. Thanks, guys. See you next week.